it's repair or towing or whatever it might be, they have to have help from the local law enforcement agencies to pull this crap off, guys. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie The Star Chamber, a bunch of judges. We just saw the Pennsylvania judge that was engaged in human trafficking of children, making sure they went into the prison industrial complex, just get pardoned by Joe Biden. You don't think that this stuff is going on at the highest level of government? You got to be smoking something.
The business that would allow employees who work there to block the cell phone calls of customers. And that's important because when we were going through all those consumer complaints, multiple consumers said they felt like when they were in the lobby of that office and they were making phone calls either for help or to their insurance company, they would just lose their cell signal out of the blue. Well, now HPD believes they know why. They retrieved this illegal cell phone blocking device that would allow, at the push of a button, to block all cell signals anywhere within a certain proximity. So we asked about how wide or how large spread they believe this investigation, they believe this alleged fraud is. And the consumer fraud prosecutor actually spoke a little bit about that.
Let me say this. It is unusual for me to ask for assistance at my office in anticipation of a flood of consumer complaints. And I have asked someone for assistance in anticipation of the number of citizens who may be calling in.
Okay, so we want to give you that phone number because we have also received quite a few emails and phone calls from many of you who say you saw our story and they towed your vehicle. You were stuck with what you thought were unfair charges months, maybe years ago. The phone number you need to call for the Harris County District Attorney Chief Prosecutor is 713-274-5555. That's on the bottom of your screen, 713-274-5555. Just tell them you're calling about USA Auto Collision Center or Stan's Records. They'll direct you to the right person to take all of your complaints because this case is continuing. Final thought, one very important thing. A lot of people are wondering, are they out of business or when will they be out of business? HPD says they're working with the city attorney's office to pull their license. They say that they believe they have the authority and can pull their license, not just the state could do, to put them out of business entirely, not just prevent them from being a safe, clear operator, but they're working on both of those fronts, to pull the city contract and also to get them out of business. Right now they're opening. They think that wouldn't happen. They wouldn't pull those licenses until sometime early next week because they say it's litigation and they think it'll take a few days. Live downtown, I'm consumer expert Amy Davis, KPRC.
So there you go. I mean, there's just so much going on that I totally don't know everything about, but so I wanted to sort of give you guys a different perspective about what's going on with Carolina and Fort Worth, because I honestly think that she was onto something with this private parking lot and this whole tow operation where the cops are in there helping these private companies tow cars out of there. And I think there's more than meets the eye here. And I think that she may have discovered something that is absolutely mind-boggling. And I think, in my opinion, that would have given a basis, if there are dirty public officials, to go after her and do everything they could to get a conviction against her. And so tonight, I'm gonna sort of recount what happened with this particular, what I believe was a false and deadly arrest and an unlawful arrest. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about bifurcated trials and whether or not I think that this judge has the right, beyond an appeal, and a duty in this case, to reverse or at least set aside the sentencing portion of the case and possibly set aside the entire conviction. And so I'm gonna get into all that with you from a lawyer's perspective. Again, I am licensed in Texas. I'm not the best criminal defense lawyer in Texas. I did all my criminal defense stuff in California. I am a personal injury attorney, so I don't really have any skin in this game. I'm not trying to get her appeal. I'm not trying to get her criminal defense case. From what I understand, she has a very good and competent criminal defense attorney. What I'm trying to do is, as a public servant and as somebody who holds a position of public trust as an officer of the court, to show you guys that we're not all on the same team. There's a lot of guys out there like me, especially inactive Marines and veterans, who really care about our country. We took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and guys like me and BZ Watchdog take it really seriously. And yeah, I mean, I got to make a living, but I'm not here trying to scramble up a case. I'm here because I'm really pissed off because I care about you guys. I've been doing this, I don't know, about 6 or 7 months now since our friend Chili got locked up illegally, and I helped him with his channel. And since that time, you guys have asked me to keep coming back. So I've just kept coming back, and it's become kind of fun. But don't think that I'm here trying to scramble up business. I really do want to expose this because I think there's something going on, and I'm hoping that you guys can help me because I don't get paid for this. So this is something that I really think that we need to focus on. And I appreciate your kind sentiments, power inherent in the people. And yeah, brother, I'll come on your show sometime, man. I'm just really upset about what's going on here because this shouldn't have happened to her. So let me just play this next video.
Into an alleged use of excessive force by a Fort Worth police officer, and that's the officer getting out of the vehicle that you see there. This was during a recent arrest. Tonight, the department has released two things, body cam video and also surveillance video of the incident. And the new video kind of helps fill in some of the key moments from the viral video, which is what part of what you saw there that we shared with you last night. Our Aaron Jones today sat down with that woman who was arrested while making that video.
That's great community relations too.
Carolyn Rodriguez says what happened to her is not surprising.
I've been arrested like this probably about 5 or 6 times.
The self-proclaimed cop watcher has a YouTube account and streams live police interactions online.
That's just to make sure that everybody's safe, that they're not violating anybody's rights.
That's right.
And we're back.
She says
all
Sunday
she's
around
doing.
3 a.m., something caught her attention in the West 7th Entertainment District. Police tell us they were responding to a hit-and-run investigation.
I heard a lady say,
I mean, listen to what she just said. I'm just trying to make sure everyone's all right. I mean, look at her. She's about 90 pounds. She's a married woman. She's a former school teacher. She's not a threat to anyone. And this dude gets out of his car and throws her on her face. That you do not touch a woman. And I like if I was the judge, I would have not allowed this case to proceed ever.
from down the way, she said, I paid $31 to park here. You're not taking my car. And then that's what tipped me off. How do you know if
We're
they
gonna get
paid or
into that,
not?
Copter
I just started to walk
5150.
up and I
Just give me a
saw she
second.
lady says,
As she streams the interaction, you hear a Fort Worth police officer ask her to go to the other side of the street or she'll get arrested. Then,
what are you talking about? Why? Wait, tell me why first.
You're under arrest. You're not.
No.
Stop resisting.
So this is the same dude who pulled a gun on Mata for jaywalking in a crosswalk. All right. And you see these two female officers, they're just standing there. Obviously, they know there's no basis to make an arrest. They know it. They're just kind of ignoring Carolina because they know Carolina's trying to get their goat. And this dude is a punk and he should not be on the police force. Give me a bunch of ones if you think that Officer Kruger should be in prison right now. Give me a bunch of ones if you think that Officer Kruger should be in prison right now. Let's keep going.
Stop resisting.
she tells us she doesn't remember what happened next.
She's bleeding. I got knocked out. They said I did a death gurgle. And the next thing I know is I woke up in the hospital, chained to the bed, handcuffed to
Chained
the
to
bed.
the bed.
Wait, tell me why first.
Today, Fort Worth police released body cam
Stand
video
there
of
with
the
a
incident,
camera.
filling in some of the gaps. You can see the officer slam Rodriguez to the ground. After getting medical attention, she was booked into the Tarrant County Jail on multiple charges, including resisting arrest and evading arrest, a visible black eye in her mugshot.
I have bruises all everywhere. This arm right here, I can barely move it. And so the elbow was knocked out of the socket, and I think the shoulder was, but I don't know.
Now Fort Worth police are investigating the use of force. Mayor Matty Parker has called a special meeting on Friday, and the city's Office of Police Oversight Monitor
Unacceptable.
is also looking into the situation.
Caroline, we're busy. Go.
The officer who has been with the department 7 years has been administratively reassigned out of patrol pending the outcome of the investigation.
Pending the outcome of the
Rodriguez says she
conviction.
wants accountability
I don't see how you can resist when you're unconscious.
and plans to file a lawsuit against the department soon. In Fort Worth, Aaron Jones.
And that's what did it, in my opinion. As soon as you put out any kind of indication that you're going to sue, what that does is that hardens the prosecutor or a corrupt police department who doesn't want to get exposed for perhaps a potential illegal towing operation. We don't know yet, but that could be the case. And it definitely would make them want to make sure they get that conviction. And we covered this in my video the other day, because now they could potentially argue res judicata, collateral estoppel, and try and shut down the civil case, the civil rights case. They can try. It makes bringing a lawsuit exponentially more difficult when you get a conviction against someone. Okay. I'm just telling you guys, you can think whatever the hell you want, but I've got 20 years in. Prior to that, I was a paralegal as well as a law clerk, and I've got experience and I've seen it with my own eyes. I know how this game works. So you don't have to believe me, but I think that there's more than meets the eye here. And I'm hoping that BZ Watchdog, with you guys' help by supporting his channel, and thanks to Rami as well for helping BZ out with his channel. I appreciate that, Rami, you helping him out. He's a good dude. That we can try to get to the bottom of this and try to find out the relationship between the tow company And that police department as well is a direct connection with Kruger. By the way, he was on administrative leave. I'll bet you anything he's back on duty now. They got that conviction. That's all it was going to take. They don't want the liability, right? Now they have plausible deniability because they got that conviction. That's all it took. And yeah, we're going to get into why this the damning evidence wasn't shown to the jury, right? I'm going to get into the evidence code and why potentially the judge excluded that evidence, which obviously, if that was shown to the jury, probably there wouldn't have been a conviction, right? Because they would have been like, time served, time served for sure. Just based upon getting body slammed and knocked unconscious. If I was on the jury, I'd be like, what prosecutor in their right mind would ever bring a case like this? That's what I'd be thinking. I'd be like, why are you wasting my time? That the punishment did not fit the crime. And so we're going to get into that in a minute. First thing I'm going to do is explain what happened. I'm going to let a Texas lawyer who's got more experience than me in Texas tell you. And so based upon what I understand, and again, guys, I don't have the full docket. I don't have the motions in limine, if there are even any filed. I don't have copies of the jury instructions. I'm hoping that BZ is going to help me get that. So I'm going off based on what I know. And what I know is it appears as though, based on what BZ's telling me, is that she showed up for her first trial and the jury didn't show up. So they cut some kind of deal to bifurcate the trial. I don't know how that happened, where they cut it up into a guilt phase and a sentencing phase, but the jury was going to handle the sentencing. Now, typically, most of the criminal cases that I've done, at least in California, the judge handles the sentencing phase and the jury handles the guilt phase. So I'm not sure what happened. There was probably some kind of legal wrangling between the prosecutor, the defense, and the judge. But if I was the judge, I would have, especially if I had seen this video, I would have wanted to handle the sentencing. Because like me knowing Texans the way I do, a judge would have not put her in jail. I'm just telling you, no way. She didn't do anything wrong. I mean, you can see it in the video. It's just ridiculous. That's just my opinion as a citizen, not even as a lawyer, but as someone who would have been on the jury. Like, there's just no way. Why did you waste my time bringing me here for this trial? So I'm going to let you guys kind of see what I'm talking about bifurcated trial, so you guys get a better understanding. It's only 60 seconds.
What is a bifurcated trial? Ryan Brown from J. Ryan Brown Law. We are talking about what is a bifurcated trial. We're going to answer that question. So in some situations, it may be improper for a jury to consider an entire case at once. When that happens, a trial is bifurcated. What that means is that the same jury will hear both parts of the case, right? So they'll hear the first part of the case, render their verdict, and then hear the second part of the case. And it is common in various situations in criminal law, but it is the same jury that is picked. And like I said, they get to deliberate on the first case, render a verdict, and then the second case starts over. Opening statements, presentation of the state's evidence, presentation of the defense evidence, a closing argument, and then it's wrapped up. And that is what a bifurcated trial looks like.
That's right. And so, hold on a minute. Don't worry, BZ. I got you, brother. We're going to show some of your stuff too. By the way, make sure to like and subscribe to BZ Watchdog's channel. Somebody drop it in the sidebar for me. So BZ extensively covered her criminal trial. But before I get into his video, first thing I want to get into is, why would a Texas criminal trial judge exclude footage of a violent arrest by a Texas cop? All right, because that's what y'all are asking me. So let's get into that before we get into BZ Watchdog's footage. And of course, there are several reasons why that could happen when there's a violent arrest by a Texas cop. And it's going to boil down to the relevance versus the probative value and the prejudicial effect, right? And I know it's a bunch of gobbledygook for you guys who aren't lawyers. And it's stuff that I'll argue about with the judge and the prosecutor before the jury is brought into the courtroom. So it's not something you're ever going to hear about. So it's natural. You're asking me, why the hell would they do that, Mike? I mean, if any jury would have seen that she got slammed on her face, then clearly they wouldn't have convicted her. And that's exactly right. That's the problem. So what the court is looking at is, well, but if there's any indicia of a resistance, and the charge is a resistance of arrest, it could be prejudicial and taint the jury to show the violent part of the case. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys understand so far. And I know it may sound unfair. Think about it, right? If the charge is resisting, and that's what you're trying to get her on, what probative value would it have to show that she was body slammed? Okay. So I just want you to look at that. I'm not saying that it was the right ruling. And I definitely in mitigation, I would say that the punishment didn't fit the crime and that there's already more than enough time served in this one based upon what happened to her. And basically, it looked to me like she was put in a coma, and it makes me sick to my stomach. I mean, I get sick to my stomach every time I watch that video. And that's why I keep covering this, because I want you guys to understand what's going on in our justice system, even though I'm not doing criminal defense anymore. I want you to know what the hell is going on because I'm good at it. I'm really good at it. Just the problem is I have to spend all my time in court when I do criminal stuff, and I don't have time to take my son to judo, or even the times that I'm doing this show, the times that I'm not, I'm in a judo class with him, and the other times my wife's taking him there. But I'm hoping you guys understand. When you do criminal defense, you're in court all day long. So that's why I just do personal injury law now, because it's hell. I mean, defending people who have been falsely convicted, wrongfully convicted, and then trying to bring a civil rights claim. Then a lot of these people have brain injuries and they're all screwed up, and they're trying to tell you how to run their case when they don't know what the hell they're doing. And then they hate you when you don't do what they want you to do. And then when they lose their case, if you do what they want you to do, they blame you as well. It just didn't work out, man. But I got other guys in my firm who can help you. But anyways, what they're looking at is the relevance, probative value, and then the prejudicial effect. That's what a court is going to look at as to whether or not they're going to bring in that violent footage of her getting face slammed. Okay. And basically, if the trial court finds that the probative value of showing that violent footage outweighs the prejudicial effect, then they'll let you see it. But if they find that the prejudicial effect outweighs the probative value, like what probative value is there to show this woman getting slammed on her face to prove resisting arrest? Well, the judge probably found there wasn't any. Now, whether or not you think that's right or wrong, that's up to y'all. But I understand it. I get it, man. I do understand that ruling. If that was the basis for the ruling. And again, guys, I also worked for the California Court of Appeal, so I'm not like a dummy. As far as I know, I'm the only dude in the history of the state of California who clerked for the Court of Appeal with no undergrad or law degree. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one who's ever done that. So it's a major achievement. So don't treat what I'm telling you with short shrift. And I'm not bragging. What I'm trying to do is tell you, I think, based on my knowledge of the law, and it's pretty damn good, is that's probably the way the judge ruled. And once I get copies of the transcript, which I'm hoping BZ is going to help me do, and I get copies of the jury instructions, I'm going to be able to give you a better overall viewpoint. But I'm just telling you, based on what I know, that's what I'm thinking happened here. Now, as we get into this, so it's going to be Federal Rule of Evidence 403, and then there's a Texas counterpart if you want to learn more about the probative value versus prejudicial effect. Doesn't mean that I agree with it, guys. I'm just telling you, that's how judges are instructed. Now, it could also have a potential hearsay problem if the footage contains statements or actions that constitute hearsay, like an out-of-court statement offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. Unless an exception applies to that hearsay, the judge could have excluded it there. And again, I think it's more about probative versus prejudicial than hearsay in this particular case, because I don't believe there was a break in the chain of custody of her footage or the body cam footage. So typically, if there's a break in the chain of custody, it becomes difficult to authenticate. That's another issue, right? So that could be prejudicial. So a lot of stuff, guys, but I want you guys to understand. Hey, I see Rami saying yes, bootlicker, and I'm thinking, what do you call me, a bootlicker? But no, it's because we got a guy named X Bootlicker in the chat. I love you, Rami. I love you, X Bootlicker, as well. That was pretty funny, though. I'm thinking, hey, what's this guy call me a bootlicker for? And then chain of custody or authentication, right? So footage can be excluded if there are doubts about the chain of custody. But here, if her footage was seized by the police, which it was, I think they even turned off her camera, there shouldn't be a break in the chain of custody. It's returned to her or her lawyer after the end of her confinement. So there shouldn't be any issues that would be prejudicial with respect to showing that footage. So, and again, I don't know what they showed in her trial because I wasn't there. And so I'm the first, look, I'm one of these lawyers who doesn't sit here and try to tell you that I'm right. I'm telling you, if this is the case, this would be how it would go. All right. Same with Lane Myers. I didn't believe it that there was a rule. What was it, like 211A or something? 211H. I think it was 211H or 122H, one of those rules that allowed you to record in audio a judge. But I never said, no, that's not true. There's no rule. No, I said, I haven't seen the rule. I had my clerks call down to the Supreme Court and they said there wasn't a rule. And sure enough, it turns out that based upon people on my own channel, that there is a rule that allows you to do it. It's an obscure rule. I couldn't find it online, but honestly, I didn't look that hard because I thought I had a law clerk that was going to do that for me. But it just so happened that Lane was 1000% right. And he had the right to do this audio recording in court. So what you're going to get with Team MPE is a little bit different than other lawyers. I'm not an egomaniac where I'm just going to tell you that I'm right. I want to learn and I want to know. So when I tell you things like I create hypotheticals for you, don't take what I say for gospel or legal advice. I'm telling you the law, the rules of construction, and I'm hoping that y'all are going to figure it out for yourself. Don't just take my word for gospel. I'm not into this whole cult following thing. I don't want a bunch of followers. I want critical thinkers to come on my show, and I want you to take away, because God has blessed me with great intelligence and great capabilities of being able to discernment. And I'm hoping that I can help you also learn critical skills by following me and learning what I'm imparting upon you, because it's a gift. You know, when I worked construction, I learned from plumbers, I learned from framers, and they imparted things on me that were gifts. So now when things break at the house, I can fix them. Probably the only lawyer you'll ever meet that can fix plumbing problems and always have a happy wife. So I want to impart the same on you. If you're a plumber, I want to give you the legal knowledge so at least you understand the basics. And that way, at least you'll know what not to do. You'll know what not to do so you can protect yourself and your family, because hiring a lawyer and getting involved in the justice system is extremely expensive, and it will take years off your life. It will take years off your life. And unless you're somebody like a Chili DeCastro or Elaine Myers, who has a strong following and the financial resources, being locked up is no place for you. Being locked up is no place for you. I don't want any of my people to be locked up. And that's why I do these shows. I don't want you guys going to jail. Okay. I do not want that for you. And I'm hoping that you guys will learn. So violations of constitutional rights. If the recording of the video violated her constitutional rights, like privacy or rights against unreasonable searches and seizure, it could be excluded then. Obviously, that's not the issue that would be argued here for her. In some instances, judges might exclude certain types of evidence based on legal precedents or public policy considerations, particularly if there's a legal history of excluding this type of evidence. I don't see that here as an issue. I really do think this is based on prejudicial versus probative value. Would showing a jury her getting her face slammed and bleeding all over the sidewalk tend to prove or disprove resistance? Probably not. Probably if they're arguing resisting arrest, just her turning her back would be enough for them to argue resisting. Now, whether or not that was a viable claim, I don't think it was. I don't think she was resisting. And I don't think he had a basis legally to tell her to go anywhere. She was not violating anything. The two female officers did not see her as a threat. It was a private parking lot, and she was merely doing investigative journalism, asking questions. She was trying to find out what was going on. If she was somebody from CNN or PMSNBC in a suit pants that looked like Broom Hillary, she would have not gotten face slammed or arrested. They would have probably been so happy to be on CNN. They'd be like, oh no, there's nothing going on here. It's all good. No issues here. I'm Officer so-and-so, and we're just here making sure that they're darn. So just give me a bunch of ones if you guys agree. I agree with you, Jody. I do. And BZ says that the two female officers broke policy and did not have their body cameras on during an active investigation. Well, that's the issue. If I don't even think there was an active investigation, BZ, because they didn't see her as a threat. Kruger he's a freaking scumbag. All right. He's already pulled a gun on someone for jaywalking. This dude should not be on the police. He should be in prison. This dude should be in prison. He is unfit to be a law enforcement officer anywhere in this country. You know, maybe he might work on Delta Force or something, right, where they don't have rules of engagement. But I doubt he could handle it because he puts his hands on women. But hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from. All right. There could be technical or procedural issues with the footage, like poor quality, inability to properly edit out relevant parts that could prejudice the jury. I mean, yeah, they could have tried to, edit out parts that would prejudice the jury, but the issue is probably the judge found that there was no probative value in showing that her face got slammed on the asphalt. That's what I'm feeling. That's what I'm thinking. So those would be the reasons. Now, but what if there was an illegal relationship between the tow companies and the police. And that's what I'm trying to understand. So, what about corruption and bribery? I mean, there's a First Amendment interest in exposing that. And so what I'm saying is what he did was a prior restraint on her First Amendment rights to prevent her from investigating. And that should have foreclosed any criminal charges against her. By him violating her First Amendment rights, I believe that the court or the prosecutor in particular should have considered that in whether or not these were valid charges to begin with. And, what if there was collusion or profit? What if there, like I showed you in those videos, happening in Texas as well as in Detroit? That could be an issue, where you're calling the tow company to tow stuff to get impounds and you get a kickback for that. Just like those judges were doing where they were locking up those kids, those judges in Pennsylvania that Biden just went ahead and pardoned, the guys that were arresting your children and putting them in prison so they could get a kickback from the prison industrial complex that Sleepy Joe just pardoned. Think about that. We've got over 500,000 minors that have been trafficked legally across our border by non-governmental organizations subsidized by the federal government. We have no idea where these kids are. And we have no idea why did they come up here without their parents, right? And now we see this judge being pardoned who is engaged in the same kind of activity. So I'm a little concerned about that. Just trying to show you some comparisons. Non-compliance with towing regulations. I mean, private tow companies have to adhere to state regs when they tow vehicles, fees, regulations. What if there's an illegal arrangement that she's trying to expose? Isn't there a compelling state interest, a compelling public interest in exposing that information that would preclude or forgo charges being filed or even allowed by a court? That's